working on your speaking in English, whether for IELTS or just generally trying to improve, here are 5 things you may want to be considering. Hey guys, this is Jeff with Fluent American again, and we're talking about 5 key things you want to consider for speaking, starting with, especially for my people who are taking IELTS or TOEFL or even that new Duolingo English speaking test. Especially for IELTS, I'm going to speak from my experience as an examiner. Your examiner is going to know your score, or at least a really good idea of your score, within the first minute of speaking with you. Now, the rest of the test, if you're taking an IELTS test, it's a 14-minute test at the maximum, so you're like, but there's these other tasks you have to do. How is a minute enough time? Well, your examiner already starts to get an idea, an impression, just based off of the grammar you're using, your pronunciation, and yeah, your score may change. So for instance, when I was an examiner, there were times where a student would maybe be a little bit nervous at the start of a test, and then by the end of the test, task 2, task 3, they get more comfortable. Or if you're not taking the test, maybe you're having a conversation with someone new, you might be a little bit nervous at first, but then as the conversation goes on, you get more comfortable. Those types of situations are common. So in a test setting, your score can improve. But I would say most of the cases that you're taking these tests or you're having these conversations, what you get in the beginning is going to be very similar to what you get at the end. So most of the times for examiners or graders, they kind of already know what score you're going to get. So you want to make sure that all the speaking you're doing at the beginning is just as key, is just as important, it's just as crucial to getting a good score as it is in the later stages. And that's true also for general conversation. First impressions are a real thing. The first couple things that you say, your listener is already creating an impression of you based on your vocabulary, based on your pauses, based on your accent, pronunciation, and things like that. These are just the realities that come with speaking. Also for speaking, in case you're not aware of it already, the times when you speak are important, but so are the times when you're not talking. Pauses. It's important to know when to breathe, when to pause. These things can make you sound much more natural. What a lot of students tend to do is they want to speak super quickly because they think that makes them sound more natural, or they take these real short breaths, or they don't have any pauses at all. And if you listen to native speakers, they're actually going to have lots of pauses, and it can help make your speech sound more natural because it adds extra stress or removes certain stresses and things like that. So knowing when to pause is super key. Pay attention to when native speakers do it. Try to imitate it in your own speaking as well. Related to pauses, you also want to pay attention to how you're connecting things. If you're not familiar with linking, we talk about linking in some other videos. You can also take a look at our shadowing exercises where there's going to be linking between sentences that we discussed there. But you want to pay attention to, for instance, if one word ends on a consonant and your next word ends on a vowel, combining them. Just to give you an example, if you say get up, the phrasal verb get ends on that T, up starts with that U, so that T is actually going to link with the U and make a fast D sound. So instead of saying get up, it's going to sound a lot more natural just to say get up, get up. Don't forget, subscribe to the channel. Whether you're preparing for tests or just trying to improve your speaking in general, I think it's pretty key to understand what topics you're pretty comfortable speaking about and also what topics you're not so comfortable speaking about. In order to communicate pretty well in English or any language, there are so many topics you need to have at least a working vocabulary for. But here's a quick list of some things that you should be at least a little bit prepared for. Education, sports, weather, jobs and professions, technology, health, games, family. These are some topics that you want to have some advanced vocab for. You also want to try to find some idioms, collocations, and expressions for. Even if these topics don't interest you, you're going to see a lot of language that's connected to them also apply to other areas as well. For instance, sports. Not everyone's interested in sports. Not everyone's interested in sports that are popular in the US. So for instance, to give you an example, baseball is a sport that has tons of vocabulary that you're going to find in all other aspects of American English speech, even in business English. Expressions like home run, first base, second base, third base, strikeout, pitch, grand slam. These are all expressions that come from baseball and that you can find in many, many other fields. Sports terminology is one area that has lots of expressions that are used elsewhere. Also, when you're studying vocabulary, try not to just focus on abstract concepts. Also try to get some concrete knowledge in there too, some concrete vocabulary, things you can actually touch. For instance, lots of people can tell me about sports and their favorite players, but then if I were to ask them, okay, well, what was their player wearing on the field? They struggle to find words like jersey, shorts, stripes, logo, cleats, shin guard. These are all the concrete aspects of sports clothing, especially for soccer or football. So you want to make sure that the concrete vocab gets some emphasis from you in addition to some of the more abstract expressions. Also, if you're working on improving your speaking and trying to sound more natural, work on exaggerating. Work on showing emotion when you're giving descriptions. So for instance, if you're trying to talk to a friend about a movie that you saw and you want to really convince them that it was a great movie, don't just think about the vocabulary that you would use to show it. Think also about where would you pause? What words would you lengthen? What words would you shorten? How would you raise the pitch? How would you lower the pitch? These are all aspects that are going to make your speech sound more natural. A lot of students sound a little bit robotic when they're giving descriptions about things that they actually are even passionate about. And for English, that's just not going to work. You need to really focus on exaggerating a little bit with your descriptions. It's one thing to say, oh, it was a good movie, versus, oh, it was a good movie, or what a good movie. It's one thing to say, it was a good movie. That doesn't sound very excited or enthusiastic. If you change it though, if you said, oh, that was a really good movie, like notice you're raising the pitch a little bit, or you can hold it like that was a good movie, like really holding movie. Play with these things to show exaggeration. Also listen to how other people are speaking, native speakers are speaking, and try to pay attention to what words are they lengthening, what words are they shortening, what is their pitch doing, and try to apply these things to your own speaking. So again, whether you're preparing for IELTS or just general speaking situations, these are some things you want to be considering. We mentioned a lot about sports vocabulary. If you know a specific sports idiom or expression, feel free to post it in comments. Let us know. What are some of your favorite sports expressions?